Hi, it's October 3rd and it's the aftermath of what already has been a great big morning that I wish I had caught on videotape, sort of a roving reporter type thing with not having to stick the microphone in anybody else's face. Something coming up maybe. Okay, first things first. We're going to start off with the domestic economic situation. Let's say we actually make something, a product, in the good old Industrial Revolution way. So we'll have a great big factory with happy, nearly identical blue people going to the factory. And the factory's got, more than one building, because over here, let's say there's a certain process like packaging. And then over here, there's a distribution group. Those are probably, packaging and distribution might be in the same building. Some places where it isn't. I've worked in. Okay. Wall Street. There are people protesting on Wall Street. I've been to Wall Street, say many times as a bicycle messenger in New York City. And as a bicycle messenger in New York City, you get to see a lot of different things from a perspective of that's simultaneously freeing and it's a unique experience. Something you can imagine. But it's a little bit like being in a NASCAR race without a car around you, and then you get a relatively quick, in-depth look at how people are actually living when they pull that 9 to 5, what a way to make a living world. Wall Street looks fragile and big, sort of like a boat that still goes from point A to point B like a ferry boat. And it's not going to collapse, or if it does, it's the water's so shallow that just everybody can get out and pick it up and carry it. And I didn't, these are extemporaneous, which is just a fancy word for improv, unrehearsed. So we got our factories. Okay, and over here we've got a, not affiliated with the factory, we got a microwave tower. Whose microwave tower is it? Oh, well, it could be a Pord Go Nebula for your Pord automobile. You have a Pord? Well, ask anyone who drives a Pord. Okay? So you're in your automobile and your antenna knows that the fan belt in your automobile is doing just fine. Every once in a while a light will come on and tell you a fan belt's cool. Alright. So here we have these nearly identical blue people going to work in the factory. And since it's 20th century style factory, it's got to have an emission thing. So it releases emissions, gets those emissions out. So the emissions just go out where they'll never hurt anybody ever again. Now in the factory, let's say there's big electronically controlled hydraulic machinery moving around. Okay. Say smushing things, dropping things, stamp presses, injection molding. Okay, and that's why you need a smokestack, because that stuff makes fumes and stuff. And the factory workers should have good masks so they don't breathe the fumes. Get the fumes in their food and ingest petroleum particulates, and you don't want plastic in your landfill. They say so on TV. Imagine all those plastic bottles in your landfill. Good thing you don't go around drinking. Wait a second. Okay, so there's all this gas That's why there's the smokestack, so it can't hurt anybody anymore. So there's all this gas floating around and there's electrical lights, and there's this. So if you're driving a poured automobile, it's got your on nebula. So it's sending a message out, and it's probably always looking for a poured. It's like so it can report to Port Central that everybody's poured is in accord. So it's sending its messages out. Well, what if one of these nearly identical blue people isn't solid with the team? Maybe they're a foreign agent. Maybe they work for another company. Right here in the United States of America, I live in the country that won World War II. So this is not a fake smile. But not everybody you see has got that smile like we won World War II. Maybe because we see the DC United soccer team with a Volkswagen thing on its tummy. I won't watch that team. And then tennis, I stopped watching tennis a long time ago that had the Mercedes-Benz symbol on tennis. I was like, no, I won't watch it. Okay, anyway, so we got this not so identical blue person. And I say semi-identical. Two of these, hopefully. Two of these. Okay. Featherless, mostly. Bipedal. So they're in the factory and there's this gas. But what if this person who doesn't even own a Pord has got a little Pord chip in their pocket because a similar little non-identical person working on their team went to the Pord factory over here. Okay. Now you see where I'm going with this industrial thing. You got fumes. And you got this little person's getting the Pord message. It's got a location thing on it. It wants to know where your fan belt is in your Pord. But what if this little yellow fella or gal takes that Pordness and pours it into the factory? And so the smoke, now you wonder, like, well, so what, the smoke's all Porty? Well, maybe that's no big deal. But, like, how does the Pord know whether your gas pressure is proper? Well, it's got a gas sensor that can tell whether, like, there's any problem with where the gas is and where the fumes are. Now, what if that gets in the drinking water or in the lungs? So you got these little Pords. Pord people. And what if it gets in the product? Easier yet. So the unsuspecting Pord automobile location device is now working for these industrial spies here. So off it goes to distribution. And the paper. And the Pord locator is going, hey man, I got a Pord and it's like, it's parked. Well, the reason it's parked is because it's a box. Okay, and then it goes over here for distribution. It gets loaded up and Mr. doesn't know what's going on's truck. And off he carries that to some faraway place that just can't wait to get the wonderful product made by the nearly identical blue people. And so off the truck goes. So you got an industrial spy. Now what if it was just so somebody wanted to mess with Pord? So if the trail went back to, like, we were being spied on. We're being spied on by the Pord Automobile Company. Ooh. So they get a twofer. Well, good thing the United Nations is looking out for, like, keeping foreign countries from doing this to each other, because if they did that on a global scale, we all might not be as safe as we should be. Okay, more with the new schedule coming up on October 21st. But anyway, there's many ones. And if you want to hear some original music, I'm going to try to do something about the sound quality. You got to do almost anything. Thanks, Oscar 21 1010 021.